My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
I'm down here at the OUTHouse with Dublin Lesbian Line, and I'm delighted to introduce as our guest today Niamh Grennan, and of course welcome back Moane again. So welcome back to Dublin City FM and LGBTQlife.
Great, yeah, it's a great programme. Keep us in touch.
I think you're far too kind, Ger, but we do try. This week is it's an auspicious week because it's the 40th anniversary of Dublin Lesbian Line. Mm-hmm. Ger, you weren't there at the beginning, but you've been very prominently involved. What's your earliest memories of Dublin Lesbian Line?
Well, it's actually probably back in the day when it was founded, knowing that there was a need for it. I wasn't part of that group that actually decided to go ahead with it. But the idea of a telephone line and a support line for gay men and lesbians was like great and badly needed. And after that, then I became a volunteer in the late 80s. And I met so many women over the years, and you probably have as well, who came out through the line. And that creates that really strong sense of everybody being connected to the line, which I think is really
Is that sense of connectivity important? I mean, because we think about it differently now. There's this bar and this club to go to, but certainly back in the early days, it must have been people must have felt very isolated and very distant. Yeah.
Absolutely, there was no online at all, and actually no print media either or radio, because there was really a boycott or kind of a silence about the whole issue of gay and lesbian. And the Telefriend, which later became Gay Switchboard, and Lesbian Lines, they couldn't advertise it. I mean, like the Galway advertiser wouldn't take anything with the word lesbian line out.
Okay.
Evening Hard, you couldn't actually advertise that way. So what they did is they created stickers with the Telefriend number and the lesbian line number, and went around sticking them back to toilets as a way of promoting it. And it was literally word of mouth, handing over, trying to get out there. You know.
So was the word lesbian considered an obscenity?
I don't know, that's maybe a bit strong. Yeah.
Well, a reserved word, as we say.
Taboo even, possibly. Yeah, I would have thought, yes, you were definitely upsetting people when you use the word lesbian. You know, yeah.
Listening to this, Niamh, how do you feel about it? Because you're a woman of the modern age, you know. Most of this would have been in the dark past when you came on. But when you hear that, I mean, what do you think of people's like Ger's generation, of what they actually had to not only endure but to survive?
It's kind of phenomenal to actually think back that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Really, when we think about it, we're in this post-marriage equality era, really, where people, you know, especially around June, when it's Pride, everyone has bright rainbow flags.
Yeah.
Every company, everything, you know, and everything's very LGBT friendly, and it's all a completely different world, which is great in a sense. Like, we want that acceptance, absolutely, but I think it needs to be an all year round thing, not just in June. But yeah, to think back that, you know what I mean, that how far we've come, it's because of people like Ger. It's because of people throughout the years who've had, you know, who started the helpline, who continue the helpline throughout the years, and we're supporting people like that.
Yeah. So just to put a question on it, I'm sure Ger will come in on this. I'm in awe of people like Ger, because in that generation, people like Ger were supposed to get married, have children, and live a very nice suburban life, and whatever else your own nature was, you were supposed to negate it. And in this era, I've come across so many women who had done that and then realised, hold on, I don't have to do that anymore.
Absolutely.
What would you think? What do you think of the courage of people from that era who came through and, as we say, put up with the sticks and arrows of outrageous fortune?
I'm in awe. I absolutely am in awe of women like that, because no, it was completely going against what you're meant to do. You know, and I even think today, like, we would get a lot of calls, a lot of emails and stuff like that of women who are in marriages who actually kind of go, actually, this isn't what I want. You know, and it doesn't make what their marriage was not valuable to what it was. You know, it's a loving relationship, but at the same time, people, it's not who they are. And being who you are and being your authentic self is actually so important. And I think, you know, women from that generation really kind of thrived and really kind of led the way for that to actually happen, for people to see it. So I think to be able to actually see it and kind of go, I can actually be that person, and I can do that. I think that's really, really important.
And I'm going to direct this to yourself, Ger. A couple of incredible women that we both know, and you would know even better than I do. I was incredibly, as I say, taken when I heard their words. And the first one I'll talk about is Joni Crone. Now, Joni was the first person to come out on Irish television. She came out on the Late Late Show, and I think it was around the time that they were going to start the helpline, and that's why she did come out. And Gay Byrne, who everybody thought was a saint in Ireland, said to her, you know, do you think you have a mental illness? And then he also then followed that up by saying, and what would your mother think, you know? But that to me would have been a common perception, is that whether you were a gay male or a gay female, you were considered to somehow or other be mentally disturbed. That was the status quo, wasn't it?
It was, and the word homosexuality was used to describe as a description, and it was kind of a medical term and a psychiatric term. And if you're and it was considered a mental disorder, that was it was, and you could be actually psychiatrically hospitalised purely for being gay or lesbian on the grounds that it was a mental illness and you needed to be cured.
You must have grown up in a middle class area, because where I grew up they were all just queers.
Oh yeah, well, I never, you know, that's, even the word homosexuality, I don't think I came across.
No, I didn't come across that until queer was the common one, wasn't it? The other person I came across, and we were just discussing it earlier, was Mary Dorsey, and she read when she read a poem at Pride called The 40-Year March, I think it was called, and she was talking about when she came out in 1974, she was so, not only was she stigmatised, but her parents were stigmatised. People would not walk down the road with her, who would not necessarily have been gay, because everybody was stigmatised by association.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was that stunning. It was really, really strong, and that's one of the reasons why people were so afraid to come out. I mean, there was losing your job bit, but there was this other, much more personal thing about your family and your friends and your neighbours who would literally, as Mary says, literally turn away. And Joni had the same experience.
Oh, I would imagine so.
Her family in particular, some members and neighbours were really hostile about her coming out in the late like that.
Wow.
And using the word lesbian, by the way, because up to then
she
it was
did
homosexual,
actually,
and she called herself lesbian, and apparently RTE were very uncomfortable.
So
they nearly wouldn't let her on.
Well, it's I can commend it to you to have a look, Niamh, because if you can find it, not only was Gay Byrne being, dare I say it, antagonistic, but the audience was hostile.
Wow.
If you see Joni now, who is a dignified, mature woman, I mean, the courage that must have taken was just phenomenal. Wow. But let's talk about the Dublin Lesbian Line. I suspect while it might have been slightly easier in Dublin, although we're not going to brush that aside, I think it must have been incredibly difficult, not only if you lived in a country town, but if you lived in rural isolation. Was that something that came through a lot when the helpline started up?
Well, as I was saying earlier, you know, how do you get the word out? So if you're living in a Thai, just to put it out of my head right now, where do you even begin? You know, you're not going to look up online anything because there isn't anything. No telephone directory is going to have anything in it. The library isn't going to have anything. The kind of places we used to go to get information. There's nobody around that you know to be gay because nobody's out. So it's unless you see it in the back of a door. Well, they went around putting it on the backs of doors because that was a safe place to put it, and that was a place where somebody's likely to see it. And they were still doing that up to 15 years ago.
Correct me on this one, Gerald. This is again, and it's probably instructive for Niamh's generation. I believe, from my recollection, that the whole concept of feminism, which came through the late 60s and the early 70s, was incredibly important to the, if you like, the empowerment of the LGBT female. What would you respond to that?
Well, very much so. I mean, I think it opened up the whole of Irish society for gay men as well as women and everybody else, because the women's liberation movement in 1970 broke all the barriers and all the taboos and really started asking questions. So, and then the feminist movement was a context where you met a lot of other women, and then I don't think it was terribly supportive of gay rights and lesbian rights in the beginning. It was a bit of a sort of, we're not sure about you. I was telling you about the Lavender Menace.
Yes, you were.
That came, that idea that lesbians would cause a lack of respect for the women's movement, that would bring it down in some way and cause problems. So we're kind of more or less asked to keep quiet. But it still was a great context.
You know, clearly it's a while since you were at school, but probably not that long. How easy was it coming through school in those days? Because we like to think we have had an enlightened period for the last 20 years, and relative to that dark age, it certainly was. But was it that easy coming through school? Somehow or other feeling different, or was it welcoming, or was there a form of shunning or stigmatisation?
Like, I think it really depends on the context. Like, I know, like, for myself and other kind of friends, like, to be honest, I don't think it was as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
You know, and I think especially like organisations like Belong To, I think are phenomenal. Especially really looking after, you know, I think it's from 14 up. I think that's an age where people are, you know, are confused and you want to make friends, and to be that little bit different, it's definitely hard. So I think organisations like that are incredibly important. But also, like, I think organisations, like as you were saying, like, you couldn't advertise them, whereas now you can advertise them. They are visible. You can look it up online. So like suddenly, once you go online, there's suddenly a community there. I think that's really, really important, because like before, if you can't find that information anywhere, you can't actually go anywhere. Whereas you Google it straight away, there's something online, whether it's Dublin Lesbian Line, you know, Gay Switchboard, LGBT Ireland. Everything is there online. So I do think, yes, there absolutely there's difficulties, and I think especially for young trans kids, I think that is something that's huge at the minute. That is incredibly difficult, and I think even the practicalities around that, you know, uniforms and gender and, you know, that kind of thing. But I do think it is a lot easier to come out. Yeah, definitely.
And then if you don't mind, you can get online, but there's a certain kind of distance about that. You know, of course you can, but to actually go into a room where there's going to be lesbians or gays like yourself, is that? Do you think easier as well? If you go online, you get your information, you finally make contact, you're going to meet somebody.
Absolutely.
Is that intimidating or welcome? Or
I think a lot of times to actually walk into that room in the first place is really difficult. I think that first initial contact is definitely hard, but I think once you do it, but I think it's easier for people who live in Dublin or who live in big cities, you know, and, you know, obviously have the accessibility, have the money to get into town, have, you know what I mean, like, I know, for example, OUThouse is not an accessible building, which is very frustrating. So there's those constant barriers that are there, but I do think that the meeting of people is still incredibly important.
Again, correct me on this one, Jerv, if I've misinterpreted. About 10 years ago at Pride, when Pride was a much smaller affair, probably maybe 15 years ago, something that I noticed was that there were great visibility of working class women who were on Pride, in a way that it's a lot more middle class now than it might have been. And I was really impressed because I grew up in a very working class area. In working class areas, women are usually the strong characters, and I thought that was incredibly symbolic in that sense. Now, we always worked on the basis that it was probably easier to be lesbian in Trinity College or UCD, but it was a bit more difficult if you lived in Ballybock or you lived in Summerhill. What's your experience again? Is that probably being a bit too picky?
I don't know now, because I would be middle class, I'm going to say it straight up, and it wasn't easy, but you weren't. I don't think maybe intimidation would be something that you might experience. So I think maybe the nature of the you'd still stigmatise, but it'd be a bit of a silencing. Whereas you might be maybe a bit more in fear of physical assault in a more working class area. But I don't even know that. And you're right about women working class women. They're not just strong, but they're also more defiant. You know, and there's whether that means you accept your sexuality sooner. So I think that may make it that you're more likely maybe to be accepting of your sexuality in a working class context.
Well, certainly the women I know from the Ballybock and Summerhill area, if somebody was physical with them, they would get it back. So let us talk about the current manifestation of the Dublin Lesbian Line. Niamh, what services do you offer, and who is who are those seeking access and information from you?
So the main service at the minute is the phone line that we do. So we're open every Thursday night. It's from 6:30 to 9. So when I first started, we were actually doing Monday and Thursdays. So it was 2 nights a week. We actually went down to one night because they weren't as busy as they were. You know, and I do think there's lots of reasons behind that. And I do think that maybe people aren't necessarily reaching out on the phone as much. We did start with a texting service. So when we're actually in the office on the phones, we're also online on the texting service. And we do find it's a lot younger people who are actually using the texting service. So a lot of time people might be at home and they don't want to be kind of on the phone, their parents in the next room. you know, that type of thing.
Of course,
so
obviously.
whereas if you're texting, you can kind of privately do it. So we have the phone line, we have the text service, and we also have a support email. So a lot of times people who may be out of the country might actually use the support email.
Again, without wanting to breach anybody's confidentiality, would it all be what we would call native Irish, or are we getting people from newer communities coming in where we hear that it's much more difficult to be LGBT?
We would mainly get Irish people,
Okay.
especially on the phones and the text service. But the odd time you would get somebody, especially from maybe like from an African country, that like it is so much so much harder. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe it is kind of, you know, like it was back a good few years ago, in a sense where people can be arrested, can be killed, and it's that fear that people are living. You know, so sometimes we get messages like that, and it's so hard because there's only so much help that we can give in that situation. You know, and we can try and support them. At the end of the day, we're a listening service here. We're not here to find solutions or answers, but we're here to listen and support and kind of help people kind of find their own solutions.
Sorry, no, Jim, go ahead. Yeah.
Or did you mention a wellness group, or?
Yes, we do.
That's
Yes,
another
so
one. Yeah, because
yeah.
that was great to hear these expansions.
Isn't
Yeah.
it?
You know, the text service and the email. And yeah.
So one of the things that we found that people really want to meet each other. Like as you were saying, that kind of physical getting in and actually meeting people. So one of the things that we do here, a former volunteer of ours does a wellness course, and they do it 4 times a year here in OutHouse. So it's like a Monday night, and it runs for 6 weeks, and it's all around wellness, around sexual health, around kind of self-help, kind of discovering who you are, mental health, physical health. And it's a completely free course, run once a week for the 6 weeks. And it just means that people are coming through and just meeting each other, and just all different ages from all over the country. People travel from all over the country to come to this once a week, which is phenomenal. And I know OutHouse themselves, they would do First Out, and there's also a married women's group, and we would refer a lot of people onto that group.
Yeah. Joe, coming back to the history a little bit, because another mutual friend of ours is a good friend of mine, Martina Moane, and I was asking Martina, where did people meet back in those days? And because you know, there were a couple of bars for men. You know, there was Bartley Dons and there was Rice's and things like that. But when I grew up in that age, and I did not recall an area where women met, and I believe J.J. Smith's was mentioned, but we've just talked about the importance of physical contact. How important was that back then?
Yeah, absolutely essential. I mean, so again, Lesbian Line would be involved in letting people know what was going on. But not having a website, which is another thing you do right away. But word of mouth, it was all about word of mouth.
Yeah.
And the Hirschfield then opened in 1980, or I forget the exact date, but once the Hirschfield opened, that was a kind of a magnet and
even for
lesbians
women.
included. Yeah, and there was a Thursday night social in the Hirschfield starting in
Not
the
on a
80s.
weekend though.
No, that's right. It's a common thing. The Thursday night was a lesbian night.
Interesting.
And JJ's, I think, started in early 80s as well.
Yeah,
And that was a regular Saturday night.
that was a social
JJ's.
event, you know, where women could drink and they had DJs
Exactly.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That, to a certain degree, your generation takes for granted, does it not? Or is it still very much a male-oriented for the entertainment scene?
I would say personally that it's very male oriented.
Yeah.
I would say that the bars here are very kind of towards males, even when it comes to performers and DJs and that kind of, if you walk into a bar, what I've seen anyway personally, it's very male oriented. But there's definitely, I think Street 66 is a great example of, you know, it's recently been done up in the last few years, and I think a lot more women are going out. There's always the kind of joke, once a woman gets into a relationship they don't go out anymore. You know, and it's that kind of thing that nobody goes out, but there's so many women, I think, from all different ages that go out. And I think at 366 it's really nice in the sense that people go out and you do see a variety of ages, which is really nice, and it's a very mixed environment.
Let's go back to the Dublin Lesbian Line as well. Something when I was reading through your website, and I was a bit surprised in one sense that you also invited. Well, you were willing to take calls from males. What's the thinking behind that? Because whenever most people I know who are heterosexual male, they always see lesbian in a prurient sense of the word, and let's talk about the help aspect of it first, and then we'll talk about how do you screen the calls.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't screen the calls at all.
No, I'm just saying, if you just got somebody who wanted to go on and be salacious.
Oh yeah, so like we do, and especially through our training, we kind of go through the difference between like a fantasy call that would be more sexual. That we kind of very much, we would end that call very quickly. We kind of go, no, sorry, this is an abuse of the service, and we would hang up the phone.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're very and that's men and women.
Okay, so all men take be aware of that. You know.
And women as well.
Yeah, you will get cut off. Yeah, you
absolutely.
got women do that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So no,
just goes to show that certain types, they're not gender specific.
Yeah, absolutely. Like our volunteers are the most important thing.
Okay.
So we have to make sure that their mental health is looked after and that they're okay on the phones. So if somebody is, you know what I mean, taking the piss or abusing the service, we're not going to take that in any sense. But no, absolutely, anyone and everyone calls our lines. So I think with the name Dublin Lesbian Line, people think it's just lesbians and it's just from Dublin. Actually, very rarely a lesbian from Dublin will ring. It's very much across the board. It is mainly women, and we have a lot of trans women. A lot of trans women, for whatever reason, they feel more comfortable talking to us. Okay. We have no problem at all with that.
That's an interesting one because it has become an area of controversy, particularly after London Pride about 18 months ago. So. Let's get the message out there. Trans women or potential trans women in transition are they're welcome to call you.
100%, absolutely. We even get people who are at the absolute initial stage of just questioning their gender for the first ever time, and they ring us. But no, absolutely, everyone is more than welcome to call our line.
But it's really interesting, I think, that trans women are attractive, because I think what they know they're going to get is a woman, for starters, and also a listening.
Yes,
because that's what you're calling yourself.
Absolutely,
that's so important.
100%, absolutely. We even get people who are at the absolute initial stage of just questioning their gender for the first ever time, and they ring us. But no, absolutely, everyone is more than welcome to call our line.
But it's really interesting, I think, that trans women are attractive, because I think what they know they're going to get is a woman, for starters, and also a listening.
Yes,
because that's what you're calling yourself.
Absolutely,
that's so important.
Is that something you find that an ear is more important than a tongue?
Oh, 100%. We always say if you're talking on the phone more than you're listening, you're not doing it right.
Okay.
You know, it's very much like, and sometimes people are a bit quiet on the phone, and that's okay. But actually, I think that especially in this day and age when we have so much technology, we're always talking on this, that, and the other. To actually have someone purely listen to what you're saying actually is really, really important.
It is, isn't it?
It's so important, and even it's 45 minutes of a call, say, and it's someone actually listening to how you're feeling that day. Is really, really important.
And do you get silent calls?
Very rarely. It's funny, it was the training we did recently, we always try to talk about that. People always say that's one of their fears. It's, oh God, what if no one talks on the phone? If someone's going to ring that line, they're going to talk.
Okay, because that would be a difference, because I think at least a third of the calls would have been silent.
Wow, really?
And they were nearly always somebody who just literally could not speak.
Wow.
They want coming out now, no messing here, just phone the line.
Well, you're dealing with so much cultural baggage, you're dealing with so much social baggage, it's extraordinary. Couple of things then to put to you, Niamh. First of all, you say you've got skilled counsellors. What sort of training do they get?
Oh, we're not counsellors now at all.
Oh, no, I'm just saying
volunteers.
Our volunteers.
Sorry,
You're absolutely fine. Just to be very clear that we're not, because sometimes people ring up and ask, are we counsellors? And we have to just be very clear that we're not counsellors. So we do intensive training, and we do the training ourselves, but we've been through the training as well. So we've actually only recently got in new volunteers. So we've done 4 nights of training, and we go through everything from like the different types of calls to why someone would call, mental health, sexual health, from sexual violence to, you know, like, and it's sometimes you can come in here and never get a call like that, but we have to make sure that it's completely covered. And then I'm making up with the HSC at the minute to do safe talk training, which is specifically suicidal awareness training. So we kind of go all across the board, but at the same time you come in and just get a coming out call or get a call from a parent. Absolutely. So our training is really important, and we have a process of volunteers have to pass every stage of training to get on the phones. We want to make sure that people are fully able to be on those phones, and we always kind of say if you need to be ringing the line, you shouldn't be on the line. That's really important for us.
Something again, now I got, because of the work I did with Tenny, and because I've done a lot of radio work on trans, when people come to me off air or just socially, the line I always take is that my role is to refer you. I'm not going to give you advice, I'm not going to tell you this, I'm not going to be judgmental. and because of my background with Tenny, I always say, this is the number, give them a call, these are the people who are qualified. Is that something that you, is that part of your policy as well?
100%. So yeah, we're a referring service. So a lot of time people will come on, and like mental health are probably our biggest call. You know, people just talking about their own mental health. And so on our website we have a list of counsellors that are specifically LGBT friendly. So we can kind of recommend people onto those counsellors. And that's really important to people, that they know they can actually go on and talk about their sexuality, they can talk about their relationship, they can talk about, whereas there's no point in someone going to a counsellor and hiding that part of themselves. Because what's the point of going to a
I
counsellor?
think that's a really good part of your, what you might call service, because so many people just don't know where to start if they're looking for a therapist.
Big time.
And to be able to say, right, Dublin Lesbian Line, you've got this, and we know they're going to be lesbian.
It's a first stop, isn't it? Yeah.
It's really great, actually.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go onto a website and they never call because they've got the information already, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a website, something that we're actually going to be developing at the minute,
Sure.
just kind of keep it up to date and that type of thing. But I think it's really important. We'd love to move into it as well, GPs, because I know a lot of people will contact us and kind of go, I want to go to a GP, but I'm just a little bit uncomfortable. So I think the medical end of things is really important, that people feel safe and comfortable.
Sure. I probably could anticipate your answer, but the reassurance that people want is that, hold on, I'm making a call, that it's not going to be recorded, so that somewhere down the track it could be released and my voice is very distinctive. What would you respond to that, Niamh?
So confidentiality is the utmost importance to us. It really is. Like the only reason we would ever break confidentiality is if somebody was harmed to themselves or harmed to others. And that's the only reason. Like at the end of the day, we're here volunteering because we want to support the community, but we are never there to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not anonymous because I'm the coordinator, and that's the only reason. But everyone else is anonymous who's on the line, because we don't want people to kind of go, oh no, I don't want to ring up because I know that person's going to be on the phone. We don't record any names. We don't record any phone numbers. We take statistics. Just say, for example, you know, female. It was about coming out.
Yeah.
They were based in Leinster, if they happen to say that.
Sure, yeah.
Just for our own statistical purposes, if we were going for funding or something like that, that is the only details we would keep.
Coming back to yourself, Joe, you and Sonia Mulligan, you made the phenomenal documentary called OUTitude. Are you seeing massive differences now between the environment that you were reflecting on in that documentary and the environment that Niamh has grown up in?
You know, the answer is yes and no, because yes, of course, it's totally changed, and one of the things that's totally changed is the way young people talk about their identity and their sexual orientation. So that's all changed, and there's the acceptance, and there's marriage equality, and there's all vastly different. And yet it's still the case, and you know this as well, that coming out is still hard. You know, it's coming to accepting, putting it out there, making contact. It's a journey. That even today it's difficult. You know, it's even though it's out there in every way, in soap operas, on internet, you name it. There are models, you might say, but it still is saying to somebody else, I'm gay or lesbian, or I think I might be.
Absolutely.
You know?
I'm going to ask you the controversial question here, and it could well be wrong, because this is something I think it was in GCN I read a few years ago, that after, if you like, gay bashing, that the second most violent was women on women. Now, I don't know how true that statistic is. Is that coming through in what the calls you are getting? That gay women on gay women is domestic violence, for want of a better term, is an issue.
We don't hear it in the phones.
Okay.
To be honest, it's not something. It absolutely happens. It has to
It
happen.
happens in all walks
Of course it
life,
does. It absolutely does. And I was doing a training session with the Rape Crisis Centre a few years ago, and I asked them about specifically rape around women and women, and they had no statistics on it. You know, and that's nothing on them. They do an incredible service, but it's interesting that it's not recorded anywhere. And earlier this year, we got specific funding to do a project around sexual harassment, and we done focus groups and also a survey specifically, and very, very few people were willing to take part. And eventually we got it, and then people were kind of talking about different harassments that maybe they felt within the bars or online and that type of thing. But I think it spoke volumes that people didn't speak about sexual violence and sexual harassment within relationships of two women.
Let's move along. You've 40th anniversary, congratulations. Clearly something is being done right. You're having a fundraiser, and look, we'll call it what it is. It's a benefit event that's taking place at the end of this week. Tell us about that. who's going to be there, how people can go to it, and what the purpose of it all is.
So this year is 40 years of DLL, which is just
Fantastic.
phenomenal.
It's just phenomenal, isn't it?
Phenomenal,
Yeah.
it really, and it's because of every single person who's been part of DLL.
Which, by the
You
way, I
know,
reckon there's at least probably 24
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
fantastic, and we're very proud of that history, and we're very
Absolutely.
proud to be able to kind of, after 40 years, still be here, but still be serving the community, which is really important. So it was something that we wanted to do. We actually didn't know the kind of the specific date that it was kind of set up. So we knew it was 1979. So we just happened to pick October because we were free in October to do it, to be honest.
Fine,
Is the reason that it's getting done. So we kind of tried to reach out to former volunteers. So like Ger, that's why that kind of connection happened, to kind of get that history. Because we've been finding it so difficult to find the history of DLL, or even history of women in general. And I know, obviously, OUTitude documentary is phenomenal to get those stories and actually put them somewhere. But we really want to gather that history. So that's kind of how the event kind of got started. Because we were finding it difficult to get volunteers or get the history itself, we turned it into a bit of a fundraiser. So we have musical acts, we have spoken word, we have, and then we have some volunteers speaking. So originally we wanted it just to be former volunteers, but we found that kind of difficult. So, but at the same time now it's just going to be a really cool night of kind of celebrating queer women, which we're really excited
And
about.
you're going to have that board where, you know,
Yeah.
Don't be modest, Ger. You're going to be participating in
Yeah.
it. What will you be? What will be your contribution to the night?
Well, I did tell a few stories
Yes.
about the, back in the day.
Yeah.
That would be one thing, like putting the stickers on the back of doors would
Absolutely.
be one example. And then I think the idea that it's continued for so long and turned over with different volunteers
Absolutely.
is great, and that it's now expanding its service. That's so great as well. So it's still an important service. I mean, I think
It
that's
is.
what's great.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
I think people have said this several times actually. Lesbian activism, you know, is all kinds of different forms. But the Lesbian Line, the fact that you've been here 40 years, you know, or
Yeah.
we've been here 40 years,
Yeah.
I suppose, is the most long-lasting kind of continuity. And a lot of people would use the phrase backbone.
Yeah.
That Lesbian Line is kind of the backbone of lesbian activism, because
Yeah.
that's the most important thing in a way is what you're doing,
Yeah.
to be aligned, to be a listener. And then after that you do the activism and the legislative thing.
Absolutely.
The lobbying and all the other stuff that we do.
Because there's still a very long way to go, which we discovered with the Repeal the Eighth campaign.
Absolutely.
That are unique to women.
And
in
Tell a
that
Friend is still there as well. I mean, even again with all the internet stuff, gay men are also wanting to have a telephone line.
Yeah.
And trans
Yeah,
women.
well, that's why we
of
have
course,
a
as well.
switchboard as well.
There's something
Absolutely.
about a line that's just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like an
Yeah.
anchor. You know?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, Niamh, tell us some of the other acts that are on, because just as I was going through the list, I thought, I know them. Let's talk at the top. You're going to have the phenomenal Burn, you know, who I am
Big
openly,
fan, as you can see.
I am openly in love with. Who I am
Big
openly,
fan, as you can see.
I am openly in love with Burn. I think she is just one
Yeah.
of the great unrecognised talents. She is just remarkable as a singer and a songwriter and a person as well.
Oh, absolutely. She reached out to us and we were absolutely delighted. We were like, please come along, absolutely. So Burn's going to perform a couple of songs. We also have Alvaretti. We have Vocal Reaction,
Yeah.
who is phenomenal, drag performer.
Incredible voice. Yeah.
Incredible
Make sure
singer.
Avoca sings "Big Girls Blouse" because
Okay.
this is my song for Brexit after after Boris Johnson called David Cameron a big girl's blouse. So, phenomenal voice. That's all I can say.
Yes, absolutely. We have Molly Sterling. We also have the incredible Vicky Curtis.
Exactly.
Yeah, the
because
lineup's great.
Incredible.
we should mention that Vicky has just come off brilliant success with the Fringe for Ga Mad,
I
which
was
I
there.
interviewed.
Fantastic.
You've got a great lineup.
Yes, we have Alva Smith speaking as well,
Yeah,
which
well,
is
of course,
phenomenal.
Alva is one of the pioneers as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And then we have a good few volunteers. So Ger speaking as well. We have Patricia as well, who was there in the early 90s.
Right.
And we have Laura Louise, who was the coordinator before myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And a bit of dancing.
I'm sure there's going to be a bit of dancing and a
But
glass
Burn
of
will get
wine.
people
And
dancing.
Well, Burn gets people singing, don't I still reckon her version of Grace is just, it's better than Jim McCann's.
This is a song that I wrote about Grace Gifford, who was married to your man Joseph Plunkett. And she, you know, she was memorialising the song that Jim McCann made famous. But there was far more to her than that. This is about Grace Gifford. Grace Gifford died on her own after a life of renown. Bloody blue shirts didn't pay their due. the firing squad for Maine and jail on the 4th of May, and they prayed to God. He wasn't understanding something, yet a rebel and a fighter, yeah. Oh, he was a poet and a mystic and a rebel and a fighter, yeah. Grace was in her prime when Joseph died. Left without a cent, his will defied. She joined the Shinners and took up the pen. Drew her way to dignity again. She went to jail, 1923. The daughter and the child, the Maine and legacy. He was an understanding suffragette, a rebel and a fighter, yeah. Oh, an illustrator, agitator, rebel and a fighter, yeah. He was an understanding suffragette, a rebel and a fighter, yeah. Oh, Grace, you were the tragic bride, but now we know you better. There's more to you than Joseph and his life. I sing this song cause you were strong enough to live unfettered by conquered blood and widowhood. You were much more than a wife.
Look, tell us the details, where and when and how much.
So it's going to be on this Friday.
That's what date is that?
So the 11th of October.
Okay.
So it's in the Tower building.
Yeah.
So it's near Tower Street Dart Station there. It's the big
Yeah.
colourful building.
Yeah.
So from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Tickets are €10. If anyone can't afford that, all you have to do is just email us. So just email hello@DublinLesbianLine.ie.
Yeah.
Just email us with a name and stuff like that, and we'll put you on the guest list for free. That's
Okay.
no problem. We don't want it to be a barrier at all. It is fundraiser. We don't get funding. The only money that we get is through fundraising.
Yeah.
So if anyone is in a position to give us any money, we would appreciate it.
Mhm.
We'll never say no, but at the same time, we never want money to be a barrier.
Sure. Yeah,
So
yeah,
please do email us.
Yeah.
The building is fully accessible, and there's also gender neutral bathrooms.
Yeah, no, I must admit now, when I did read your website, it said if you're a student or unemployed, pensioners like myself. Because let's be honest, those of us who survive, we deserve more than just a bus pass. Look, most pensioners.
But just to mention the Facebook page as well, and that's
Yes.
what you're putting it around through Facebook, and
Yeah.
so
Absolutely,
and
yes.
the event, and I know because I got the tickets are on event, right?
Yeah.
The tickets are on Eventbrite, yeah. So
join Lesbian Dublin, and it's Dublin Lesbian Line on Facebook, isn't it?
Dublin Lesbian Line, the Facebook page
Yeah.
itself, we have an event up, and it's also on our Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So you can get it. So
Yeah, well, I'm kind of struck by all this electronic stuff because we were saying earlier, how awful it was nobody could make contact.
Yeah.
And all we did is answer the phone. But you're answering the phone, you're running Facebook, you're
Yeah.
running this
Yeah,
website,
exactly.
you're running Instagram, you're answering texts, you're doing
Yeah. It's a lot.
And not only that, we'll be putting this out on YouTube as well. So
Oh, yeah, brilliant, yeah.
we wish you the very best. I just want to say, Ger and I will be talking soon because you've got a fundraiser for OUTitude as well. But we will come back and tell the listeners all about that. But in the meantime, 40 years, we look forward to your 50th anniversary because
Absolutely.
you're doing such a good job. So, Niamh and Ger, thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, brilliant.
My world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am.